Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, I, 27 female, always envied those TV families where the dad would play catch in the yard or teach his kids how to ride a bike. My father, Richard, was a successful businessman. He had built an empire from scratch, a company that became a cornerstone of our community and beyond. People admired him for his intelligence, drive, and vision. He was one of those larger-than-life figures people whispered about when they passed him on the street. But to me, he was an enigma. Despite being an only child, I rarely felt like I truly knew him. From my earliest memories, my father was distant. He wasn't mean or cruel. He was just elsewhere. Even when he was home, his mind was on work. There were no bedtime stories, no father-daughter outings to the park. He never played catch with me or helped me with homework. It wasn't like he avoided me on purpose. It felt more like he didn't know how to connect. My mother, Angela, did her best to make up for his absence. She was warm, loving, and always there when I needed her. She gave me hugs, kisses on the forehead, and a shoulder to cry on. She made me feel special, but I still ached for the kind of fatherly love I saw other kids getting. I would see dads cheering at soccer games, helping with science fair projects, or just cracking jokes with their kids, and I would wonder why my father wasn't like that. But I used to brush it off, thinking he is a big man, busy with his business. Maybe that's why. It wasn't that my parents fought or that their marriage seemed troubled. It just wasn't loving in the way I imagined marriages should be. They were polite and cordial with each other, like respectful co-workers rather than romantic partners. They didn't argue, but I never saw them holding hands or sharing quiet, tender moments. I used to wonder if this was what grown-up love looked like, or if my parents had settled for something less. By the time I was a teenager, I had largely accepted that my father and I weren't going to have the kind of close relationship I wanted. I focused on school, friends, and my hobbies. I learned not to hope for too much from him. Then, when I turned 25, everything changed. My father got sick. He was diagnosed with cancer, and it wasn't long before we learned it was terminal. I'll never forget the day he told us. He called my mother and me into his study, a room that always felt intimidating, with its dark wood shelves and awards lining the walls, and quietly explained the situation. I remember my mother covering her mouth in shock, tears streaming down her face. I felt frozen, unsure how to process it. My father, ever the composed businessman, laid out the facts calmly, as if he were giving a presentation. But beneath the calm, I could see the fear in his eyes. The months that followed were surreal. My father had always been a force of nature, someone who seemed untouchable. Watching him become frail and vulnerable was devastating. He started opening up more, though in small, tentative ways. He would ask me how my day was, or tell me brief stories about his early days building the company. I cherished those moments, even though they were bittersweet. It was as if he was trying, at the last possible moment, to bridge the gap that had always been between us. One day, not long before he passed, he asked me to meet him in his study. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I know I wasn't the father you deserved. I was too wrapped up in my own world, too caught up in my demons from the past to be present for you." I started to cry, and he reached out to take my hand. It was the first time in my life I could remember him offering a gesture like that. "I can't change the past," he continued, "but I want to leave you with something that shows how much you mean to me." Then he handed me a sealed envelope. "This is my will," he said. "I'm leaving you everything. The company, the assets, it's all yours. But there's one condition. I need you to read this letter at the morning lunch after my funeral." I stared at him, confused. "Why?" I asked. "What's in it?" He just shook his head. "You'll understand when the time comes. It's important to me that this is done. Can you promise me that?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I promise," I said. He pulled me into a hug, and for once, I felt like I wasn't just a daughter in name only. I felt like his daughter. He passed away a month later. The funeral was heartbreaking, with colleagues, friends, and family coming together to mourn him. I felt the weight of all those years we had lost, all the moments that could have been. But I also felt a strange sense of closeness to him, as if those final months had given me a glimpse of the father I had always wanted. At the morning lunch, his lawyer approached me with the letter. I had been dreading this moment, unsure of what it would reveal. I stood up and explained to everyone, this was my father's last wish. He asked me to read this letter aloud today. The room went quiet. I unfolded the paper, my hands trembling, and began to read. My father's letter started by expressing his love for my mother. He wrote that she was the love of his life, that he cherished her deeply. But then he revealed that he had been unable to have children, and that he had told my mother this before they got married. She assured him it didn't matter, and they began their life together. 5 years into their marriage, my mother announced she was pregnant. My father described how overjoyed he was. He believed in miracles and thought that somehow, against all odds, they had been blessed with a child. When I was born, he said, he was the proudest and happiest man alive. He said he loved me deeply, and I was the best thing that happened to him. That made me cry, but I continued. But when I was about a year old, he overheard my mother on the phone. She mentioned to somebody that she was pregnant again, but planned to terminate the pregnancy because it might raise suspicion. My father was stunned. He confronted her, and she admitted that the baby was his brother's. Devastated, my father secretly did a DNA test on me. It confirmed that I wasn't his biological child. He wrote about the crushing pain of the discovery, how it shattered his world. But then he said something that broke me. Despite everything, I love you. I decided to forgive your mother because I loved her, and I loved you. I wanted to believe we could move forward. He explained that he distanced himself from his brother and tried to put it all behind him. For years, he kept this secret, hoping to take it to his grave. But when he found out he was terminally ill, he also learned that my mother had never stopped seeing his brother. He wrote that he felt betrayed all over again, and he couldn't let the truth stay buried. He said that he had kept this secret out of love, but now he believed everyone had a right to know. He ended the letter by saying he was proud of me and believed I would honor his legacy. By the time I finished reading, tears were streaming down my face. The room was silent for a moment, then erupted into chaos. My uncle's wife slapped him, shouting that she wanted a divorce, and stormed out of the room. My mother was sobbing, saying it wasn't true, that my father must have been mistaken. I reached into the envelope and pulled out the DNA test results, showing them to everyone. My mother collapsed in tears, accusing me of reading the letter for the money, being weak for letting my father manipulate me into shaming her and destroying our family for selfish reasons. But I had made a promise. I had fulfilled my father's last wish. And now I'm left wondering if I did the right thing. Am I the a-hole for reading my father's letter? I don't think OP is an a-hole here. OP's father clearly spent a long time grappling with the pain and betrayal he felt. And at the end of his life, he decided he didn't want to take that secret with him. He trusted OP with something deeply personal, something that had weighed on him for decades. Honoring his request to read the letter wasn't about causing chaos or hurting people. It was about fulfilling his last wish. Also, OP didn't know what was in the letter. OP's mother is upset because the truth is finally out, and she doesn't want to face the consequences. But OP didn't create this situation. OP simply followed through on what her father believed needed to be said. While it's tragic things unfolded the way they did, OP did what he asked her to do, and that took strength and courage. That's on him, not on OP. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. This wasn't just a casual request from your father. It was his dying wish. That letter wasn't written on a whim. He had likely thought long and hard about whether or not to share the truth. He had lived with this betrayal for so many years, and in the end, he decided that the people involved needed to know. You were placed in an impossible position, but you did what he asked because you respected him, even if it was painful. It's understandable that your mother and others might be hurt, but that doesn't mean you were wrong to fulfill your father's request. Your father's actions were his own. He chose to write the letter. He chose to include the DNA test results, and he chose to trust you with his final wishes. None of that is on you. It's not your fault that the truth he wanted revealed caused such a stir. You simply honored his last request, and that is nothing to feel guilty about. You're the a-hole. I understand that you were honoring your father's last wish, but you had to know how devastating it would be to read something like that in front of everyone. You could have chosen to share the truth privately, or found a different way to handle it. Instead, you aired deeply personal family matters in a public setting, causing irreversible harm to relationships. Your mother is wrong for what she did, but by reading that letter, you effectively threw a grenade into an already fragile situation. If the goal was to honor your father, there were more compassionate ways to do so without causing so much pain. Some context here. 5 years ago, when I was in my last year of university, my parents divorced, and for many reasons, which include my father being psychologically aggressive, I decided to side with my mother and live with her. He was not happy about that, so he decided to ask for half of the worth of our home, even though my mother bought it completely on her own. To not lose our home, I got 3 part-time jobs in the spare time while I was studying, and we could finally pay him his share, and he left after destroying many things in our home. Yes, he stayed 1 year while the divorce was in process. He just quit talking to me one day, got a new partner, and just left, telling me that his stepkids were the kids he always wanted, instead of geeky nerd, 'cause I'm an IT engineer. He didn't stop there. He also talked to all of his family, my grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, who also cut me off, without even knowing my side of the story. Once I graduated, with the best score in my faculty, I got a scholarship for an MBA in Italy, which only covered the basics plus the tuition. So my mother helped me a lot since I couldn't work with my visa. 3 years ago, I came back to my country, and suddenly, I got a great position in an international IT company, at the point in which I bought a car, a new apartment for us, and we had a great life in general. Suddenly, he started to send me friend requests through Facebook, which I ignored and blocked his account. Yet he managed to get my phone number after I changed it, and he started calling me, telling me he and his wife are starving, and his stepsons couldn't find a job, basically telling me I have to give him money, and that he spent all of the share of the house we gave him, which was more than $50,000, paying the university of his stepsons and his wife's lifestyle. I just told him I'm sorry, but I won't do that. Now he has started going to the reception of my apartment, telling me that I owe him this, and I have to be a better person, that he always loved me, and I was the one who turned my back on him. All of his family, not mine at this point, started calling me as well, telling me I owe him a great share of my income, and I have to give him that, or else they will sue me. That's BS. I again just told them to duck off. That's none of their business. The worst part was that they came to my previous house, which my mother still owns, and broke every window, telling me that was just the beginning of it if I don't hand him the money he wants. I just went to the police and got a restriction order. Yet some of my friends told me that I should forgive him and try to help him out, as he is still my father. I'm 26 male, yet I cried all the night remembering how he just forgot me, all of his words, and now I honestly don't know what to do, as I could help him out without much effort. By this time I'm feeling guilty of knowing he's possibly starving, yet he got a new family, and now he wants me to pay for them too. I really don't know what to do here, but I think I can't forgive him right now. He's lying about starving kids to guilt and manipulate you. The crap weasels of the world rely on you being the bigger, better person, because they get what they want out of you, and the only cost to them is granting you a moment of moral superiority as you bask in your bigger betterness. To someone willing to steal hours or more of your time, meaning the hours spent earning that money, that's an easy bargain. Plus, they get an ego boost because they're proud they tricked you. Eventually, forgive him, for your sake, not his. But it doesn't have to be today. And even if you do forgive him, that doesn't have to mean an ongoing relationship. Be kind to yourself. He never will. First, tell your sperm donor to go duck himself. If he wants money, go stand on a corner and SD for money, cause that's all his mouth is good for. Second, when his fam calls you, play stupid and ask who they are and how they know you. Also, check into recording all convos with them. Some states you don't have to tell the other person you're taping. That way, any threats you have proof. Third, any friends that side against you are not friends and thus also need to duck off. Your money is yours and yours alone. You have a sperm donor, no father. You don't owe anyone anything. Stay strong, bro. Your friends are stupid and you should just let them have it. Spill everything out about everything that the man has done. And again, ask them if they were in your shoes, would they do it? That man and his messed up family burnt their bridges with their lies, actions, etc. You and your mom don't owe that garbage heap anything. I, 47 female, have 2 kids, 17 female and 19 female. My daughter, 17, Alyssa, is a straight-A student and plays soccer. She is also on track to graduate high school with honors and possibly with a scholarship for sports, and if not, for her honors in being top class. My oldest, Riley, became pregnant fresh out of high school, so she wasn't able to attend college and had to start working immediately. Now, when I found out, I was extremely upset, and I encouraged her to go a different route with her pregnancy, so I didn't have to deal with the burden of it, especially since the father is, and was, well out of the picture. However, my daughter really wanted to raise him. However, it would be a burden since Alyssa wouldn't be able to focus with a screaming baby. Her grades would drop, and it would be a bad example to paint the narrative that teen pregnancy is okay, or that it was something to be looked up to, and I really didn't want any bad influences around her, especially since she's on the right track. My daughter and I both agreed that upon her living here, she would have to abide by my rules, and if she couldn't, then she would have to leave. We didn't have any room for a baby, and with my work schedule, I wouldn't be able to babysit. I told her that the best option was adoption, and I told her that she could look at different agencies and find a family she liked, and that's what she did. She chose a family once she was 5 months, I believe. Yesterday, my daughter gave birth to her birth son, and he was so precious. I was with her during labor and afterward. She tried to convince me to let her take him home with us, but I told her no, and I told her that she needed to hand him off to his parents and sign off on the papers. I told her if she didn't, then she would have to pack her things that day and find someplace to live. She ultimately signed the papers, and I could hear her crying while I was in the hallway waiting. I encouraged her to do a closed-door adoption so that she could move on with her life. However, she did an open adoption. My daughter feels like I made her place her child for adoption and ultimately forced her, and she told me she hated me and called me an a-hole. However, I don't see how that's the case when she put herself into this situation. I don't feel I did anything wrong. Am I the a-hole? No a-holes. You fulfilled your parental duty to Riley by raising her to adulthood. Your responsibility does not extend to raising her child as well. It's not like you forced her to get an adoption. She was always free to move out and raise the kid on her own. She knew that wasn't for the best and signed the papers. However, the choice you made will have lasting consequences. I think you know there's a good chance Riley won't want to have much of a relationship with you going forwards. And she has good reason for that. You could have stepped up, but clearly your relationship with her was not worth that effort. You're the a-hole. You coerced her into an adoption and then show no empathy or love for what she's going through. Even when she expressed that she did not want to go through with it, you told her that you would force her out of the home right after giving birth in order to coerce her into signing the papers. It is unfortunate that the hospital did not have a social worker or someone there to protect her while she was signing the papers. Someone who could have told her that there were options for housing and that no, you couldn't simply force her out that day. And it is clear that you have deemed Alyssa the golden child. Big, you're the a-hole. Oh my God. My heart breaks for your daughter. How can you be so heartless? It is your grandchild, for God's sake. Your daughter is no kid anymore. She's 19. She could find a job and take care of the baby. But no, apparently, your second daughter with her A grades is more important than your first daughter and your grandchild. My stepson, 18, is graduating from high school in 2 weeks. His parents have been divorced for 11 years. I've been married to his dad almost 2 years. We have been 50-50, but he's mostly lived with his mom the last 7 months since he turned 18. A couple of weeks ago, he came to his dad and me and said that he wanted to take a family photo after the graduation ceremony. We thought this was a great idea, as all of the kids, mine and my husband's, have had a hard time bonding. What he meant, though, was that he wanted to take a picture of just him with his mom, his dad, and me. He said he wanted to get all of his parents in one photo. Now, I don't like his mother. I've never actually met her, but she is a terrible person, and the thought of having to look at a photo of her with me and my husband in it for the rest of my life makes me physically sick. I told my stepson I would not be in this photo. He then said he would take one with just his dad and mom. I told him absolutely not. I would not allow his dad to stand in the same airspace as his mother, even for a graduation photo. That is not acceptable to me. His dad agreed and said he didn't want to. Stepson said he would no longer be giving us tickets to the graduation ceremony. Apparently, you need a ticket to get in, and the students are only given so many. It is a very large school in a very large city. He said he doesn't care if we want to buy our own at the door, but he won't be finding us afterward for any photos, and he will give all the tickets he has given to his mom's side of the family. I don't think what I said was unreasonable. I think it was an unreasonable ask on his part, but his reaction makes me think I might have been the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You can have your opinions on how terrible your stepson's biological mother is, but not respecting his decision on how he wants to commemorate his graduation ceremony speaks volumes about the love you have for him. You're the a-hole. You don't have to look at this picture for all eternity. You can take copies of this picture and burn them, cackling as they go crispy, if that's what you want. Your stepson has a relationship with his mother, regardless of whether you like it or not, and he's asking for his family to be in a photo with him. You're the kind of parent who gets uninvited from weddings. Remember, babe, it's not all about you. You're the a-hole. You say that the thought of looking at the pic makes you sick. Seriously? You don't ever have to look at it. You were just asked to stand there like a civilized human being for 30 seconds. And forbid your husband from being in the photo without you? Seriously? You're giving stepmothers a bad name. My father, 54, never told his family I existed, 32 female, and continues to refuse to. My father had an unsuccessful relationship with my mother when they were younger. He later went on to have a marriage with another woman and has 4 kids to this day with her. He continues his contact with me, but refuses to introduce me to his mother, father, sister, and the rest of his family. He says their discovery of his relationship with my mother and my existence would disgrace his name and his wife's name, who he was also seeing back when he was with my mom. As far as his parents and sister know, he has 1 wife and 4 kids. He says his wife doesn't let him introduce me to my relatives because that is their culture, to have 1 wife and 1 family. For 32 years, I've not met anybody from that side of the family, which I wish to. I realize I can find them on my own time, but just the fact that my birth father refuses to introduce me to any of them, I cannot forget. I make excuses as to why he thinks the way he does. He wants to preserve his and his wife's marriage. She knows about us. But where I draw the line here is that this woman, who is a total stranger to me, is able to keep my blood relatives away from me for the sake of saving her face. Is my relationship with him beyond repair? He absolutely shows no guilt or empathy that he is a spineless man that cannot stand up for his own daughter. Not the a-hole. Reach out if you really want to meet them. Your father has no right to treat you like a dirty secret. Not the a-hole. You can approach other family members and introduce yourself. Don't necessarily expect a welcoming reaction, though. You may want to submit DNA to one of the big genealogy sites and see if you match up with anyone, and approach it that way. My mom has passed, and it's just me, 17 female, my dad, 40 male, and my brother, 9 male. Recently, we've been having trouble financially. My dad made a bad decision, and it has cost us a bit. Not too much. We can still live comfortably, but my dad might need to take on more hours. My dad used to be described as one of the most well-looking guys anyone knows, but now he looks awful. His eye bags are cripping, he's losing weight and hair, and it just hurts to watch. To make it worse, we rent up in my city due to some inflation BS, and it's been super difficult. Rent has increased, so has food prices, and taxes are the absolute worst. I recently got a job that pays $1.7K, which is close to minimum wage, but not really, not USD. I transfer all my money to my dad, and every night on my payday, I hear him cry to a picture of my mom and beg for forgiveness that he makes his own daughter work where I was his little princess. See, we were actually quite middle class, and both me and my sibling was considered prince and princesses. My dad was of course our king, and my mom our queen. He'd treat us so well. My mom got in a car accident and it wrecked my dad. They were young lovers, so it broke his heart. We ended up traveling to our home country to bury my mom, and there we met a guy. He offered a business deal. My dad signed it. It messed our finances up. Anywho, my money helps a lot with our finances, and it's been great. We can live a little comfortably now, but that's why my boyfriend is annoyed. He says it's stupid to me how my entire paycheck goes to my dad, and I have 0 savings. 2 people depend on me, and it's stupid. This is a paragraph he sent, paraphrased. I can't believe how dumb this is. I don't know why you're so emotional after your dad. Just move out. He's using you, and you're this idiot who believes everything he says. Stop giving him his money. Cut him off. Live independently. I was so pissed. Like, of course I give my dad money. I sometimes have savings. Last year I invited my friends to my birthday, and altogether I got like $500. And I pay for dates too. I don't use my boyfriend's money. I was telling my friend casually, and she told me, he's right. I mean, I understand. You spend all your money on a grown adult. How long do you plan on doing that for? You'll never have a future on your own. And it hurt. Am I the a-hole for giving my money to my dad? I just think it's normal for me to. I have everything I want in life. I still have enough money to buy things I like, go on dates, buy nice dresses, heels, and makeup, etc. I'm not suffering poverty. Not the a-hole. I don't think that a man who weeps at needing to take money from his daughter is leeching. He's trying to stay afloat, and you say he's going to work more hours. He's trying to fix his situation. You don't seem to mind helping out at least for now. So, no, you're not the a-hole. You're a really generous person. Not the a-hole. These other people don't live your life and don't earn your money. You do what makes sense for you. Not the a-hole. You know what? It sounds like there's a lot of love in your family, and a lot of people who haven't had to live your pain together are looking in giving comments about a situation they don't feel the weight of in detail. You're 17. You don't need to be moving out right now if you're comfortable at home anyway. One day when you do want to live out though, it will be time to have a conversation with your dad about needing to start saving your own money to do that.